I may not be the biggest fan of anthology films in general, but an anthology Winnie the Pooh feature-length film? Absolutely. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh encompasses what I consider to be three of the most classic Winnie the Pooh episodes. Maybe the most classic, but I'd be interested to know if you have a different opinion on that. If I said to you, name a Winnie the Pooh episode from this time, would you name something different? The Many Adventures was released in 1977, directed by John Lounsbury and the brilliant Wolfgang Reitherman, who did a lot of great directing for Disney. And we have three different stories here. We have Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, which was originally released in 1966, Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day from 68, and Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2 from 74. I have discussed all three of these separately, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about these thoughts. But, of course, I will share some basic ideas, but generally, the overall consensus is that the three episodes are all individually brilliant, and I also love the way they segue between them. For example, at the end of one episode, I'm calling them episodes because they are, I guess, they're short films, but they're not actually episodes. But at the end of one segment, Winnie the Pooh, or whichever character, will turn to the narrator, i.e. looking straight at the camera, and will say, what is the next story about? And the narrator will say, well, this next one's not about you, Pooh, it's about Tigger, and it begins with you sitting in your thinking chair, having a think. And I love that. I love that it's breaking the fourth wall. Most Winnie the Pooh from this time do break the fourth wall, and the narrator does tell us the story. So I think it's got a really lovely setup. So even though it's an anthology, they continue that theme and manage to connect everything brilliantly. And that's what I think is one of the great selling points about this. And it makes it a bit more unique than just the three separate stories. So if you've already seen the three stories, you won't have seen the bits that connect them together. So that still makes it worth watching if you are a fan of Winnie the Pooh. So the three stories, if you haven't seen them, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, Pooh Bear is out of honey, so he tries to go and get honey, and he gets stuck, and it goes disastrously wrong, and his friends are there to help him through this difficult time. It's a really lovely story. Well, first of all, it's a lovely story about friendship, but it's also a story about maybe not being so greedy and desperate for honey, or you might get wedged in a tree. But I do thoroughly enjoy it, and there's some beautiful animation. Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, I think, is absolutely brilliant. There's a huge storm. There was one of my favourite songs in it, and the name of the song, I can't remember. I think it's called "The Rain, Rain, Rain Came Down, Down, Down," and it's got this beautiful scene where Piglet is in his house and it's flooded with water, and he's using, I think, like a saucepan or a pan of some kind as a little boat, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it's all about coming together to help each other through the stormy weather, while Winnie the Pooh also learns about the blustery day and wind and the rain and kind of more inclement weather. And we also have Heffalumps and Woozles, which I didn't realise until doing research for this was actually the Mellow Men. I didn't realise it was the Mellow Men who performed that, so that was an exciting find for me. And we also get the wonderful thing about Tiggers. So the songs in this Blustery Day episode I just think are absolutely brilliant, and some of the best Winnie the Pooh songs ever. Some of the best Disney songs. I think "The Rain, Rain, Rain Came Down, Down, Down" is such an underrated song. I absolutely adore it. With regards to the third one, Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2, this is obviously a really great episode that focuses on Tigger, and I think this is the one for me that is actually most prominent from my childhood. There is a scene that I believe I've talked before where they're lost in the woods or the forest, and they keep walking around in circles trying to find their way out, and they keep seeing the same sand pit. And honestly, whenever I hear the word sand pit, I picture this bit of, well, it was an illustration originally, I had a book of this, but this animation, and Tigger goes off and he gets lost, and Tiggers never get lost, but he does get lost, and eventually he has to admit that he is actually quite scared and lost and frightened, and it's a change of pace for Tigger. I think it's a lovely story about sticking together and admitting when you are scared, and not trying to be pseudo-brave. You don't need to pretend to be brave, particularly when you're around your friends. So I really thoroughly enjoy it. I love how they connected the segments. I don't need to say much about the brilliant voice cast. We have the usual fantastic Sterling Holloway as Winnie the Pooh, who for me is, of course, for most people, the voice of Winnie the Pooh. It's a beautiful anthology. The Many Adventures does contain 3 of the most iconic. It didn't contain A Day for Eeyore, because that wasn't out yet, of course. But aside from that, I think it contains 3 of the most iconic Winnie the Pooh shorts, and it blends them together so beautifully. I really can't fault it.